Hi there, and welcome. Thank you for being here with me today. This is the story of how I went from feeling completely empty to finally coming alive again, a story about silent struggles, unseen battles, and the quiet kind of pain that doesn't always look like depression. It's called From Empty to Alive, My Journey Through Undiagnosed Depression. Let's begin. The ache started subtly, a persistent hum beneath the surface of my awareness. It wasn't pain. Not exactly. More like absence. An absence of joy, of enthusiasm, of any genuine feeling beyond a dull, pervasive gray. I didn't recognize it as depression. How could I? Depression in my mind was a dramatic storm, a tempest of tears and despair. I wasn't crying. I was functioning. I was going to work, paying my bills, maintaining a semblance of a social life. I was just empty. My name is Elias Thorne, and until the age of 34, I believed myself to be a relatively well-adjusted human being. I had a stable job as a software engineer, a comfortable if somewhat sterile apartment overlooking the city, and a small but loyal circle of friends. My life wasn't thrilling, perhaps, but it was fine, or so I told myself. The emptiness crept in gradually. First, it was the little things. The things I used to enjoy: hiking in the nearby mountains, losing myself in a good book, experimenting with new recipes in the kitchen, suddenly felt pointless. The mountains seemed less majestic, the books less captivating, the food less flavorful. I chalked it up to stress. Work had been particularly demanding lately, deadlines looming, code refusing to cooperate. I told myself I just needed a vacation, a chance to recharge, but the vacation came and went. A week spent on a sun-drenched beach, and the emptiness remained, clinging to me like a damp shroud. The vibrant colors of the ocean seemed muted. The warmth of the sun failed to penetrate the chill in my bones. The sound of the waves was just noise. I went through the motions of relaxation: swimming, sunbathing, reading, but I felt nothing. And no joy, no peace, no sense of escape. Just a profound and unsettling absence. Back home, the emptiness deepened. It began to affect my work. I found it increasingly difficult to concentrate. My coding became riddled with errors, and I lost all motivation to tackle new projects. My boss, a pragmatic woman named Sarah, noticed the change. She called me into her office one afternoon, her brow furrowed with concern. "Elias," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "you haven't been yourself lately. Your performance is slipping. Is everything all right?" I hesitated, unsure how to explain the unexplainable. "I'm just tired, Sarah," I mumbled, "a bit burned out, maybe." She studied me for a moment, her eyes searching. "Burnout is serious, Elias. You need to take care of yourself. Take some time off, if you need it. But if it's something more, something deeper, please don't hesitate to seek help." Her words resonated with me, but I dismissed them. Seeking help? For what? For feeling nothing? It seemed absurd. I wasn't suicidal. I wasn't having panic attacks. I wasn't exhibiting any of the classic symptoms of depression. I was just empty. And emptiness, I reasoned, wasn't a valid reason to seek professional help. It was just a temporary state, a passing phase. I would snap out of it eventually, but I didn't snap out of it. The emptiness persisted, day after day, week after week, month after month. It became my constant companion, a silent shadow lurking behind every thought, every action, every interaction. It eroded my relationships, my passions, my very sense of self. My friends noticed the change too. They tried to reach out, to offer support, to drag me out of my shell, but I resisted, pushing them away with feeble excuses and forced smiles. I didn't want them to see the hollowness inside me, the void that threatened to consume me whole. One evening, my friend Liam, a boisterous and relentlessly optimistic graphic designer, invited me to a concert. It was a band I used to love. A group whose music had once filled me with energy and excitement. I agreed to go, hoping that the music might somehow rekindle the spark that had long since faded, but the concert was a disaster. The music was loud and chaotic, the crowd was suffocating, and I felt utterly disconnected from it all. I stood there, numb and detached, watching the faces around me, faces filled with joy and enthusiasm. And I wondered what it felt like to feel those emotions again. I wondered if I would ever feel them again. During a break between songs, Liam turned to me, his face beaming. "Isn't this amazing, Elias?" He shouted over the noise. "This is exactly what you needed." I forced a smile. "Yeah, great," I mumbled, my voice flat and lifeless. Liam's smile faltered. He looked at me, his eyes filled with concern. "Elias," he said, his voice softer now, "are you okay? You seem distant." I shook my head. "I'm fine, Liam. Just tired." He didn't believe me, I could tell, but he didn't push it. He just patted me on the shoulder and turned back to the stage. I knew I couldn't keep up the charade much longer. My friends were starting to see through me. My boss was losing patience, and I was slowly but surely falling apart. I needed help, but I still couldn't bring myself to admit that I was depressed. It felt like a weakness, a failure. One day, while mindlessly scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon an article about high-functioning depression. The article described a type of depression that didn't manifest in the typical ways: no crying, no suicidal thoughts, no dramatic breakdowns. Instead, it presented as a persistent feeling of emptiness, a loss of interest in things that once brought joy, a difficulty concentrating, and a general sense of apathy. As I read the article, I felt a jolt of recognition. It was like looking in a mirror. The symptoms described in the article perfectly mirrored my own experience. I had high-functioning depression. I wasn't just empty, I was sick. The realization was both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it meant that I had a serious problem, a problem that required professional help. Liberating because it meant that I wasn't just weak or lazy or defective. I had a medical condition, a condition that could be treated. I made an appointment with a therapist the next day. Dr. Anya Sharma was a warm and compassionate woman with a calming presence. She listened patiently as I recounted my story, my voice trembling with emotion. She didn't judge me. She didn't dismiss my feelings. She didn't tell me to just snap out of it. She simply listened, her eyes filled with understanding. "Elias," she said, when I had finished speaking, "what you're experiencing is very common. High-functioning depression can be difficult to recognize because it doesn't always present in the way that people expect. But it's just as real and just as debilitating as any other form of depression." She explained that depression is not just a feeling of sadness or despair. It's a complex neurochemical disorder that affects the brain's ability to regulate mood, motivation, and pleasure. It can be caused by a variety of factors, including genetics, stress, trauma, and chronic illness. She recommended a combination of therapy and medication. The therapy would help me to understand the underlying causes of my depression and develop coping mechanisms to manage my symptoms. The medication would help to restore the balance of neurotransmitters in my brain. I was hesitant to take medication. I had always been wary of drugs, afraid of the side effects, afraid of becoming dependent. But Dr. Sharma assured me that the medication was safe and effective, and that it would only be a temporary measure. I agreed to try it. The first few weeks were difficult. The medication made me feel groggy and nauseous. I had trouble sleeping, and I experienced a range of unpleasant side effects. But Dr. Sharma encouraged me to persevere, assuring me that the side effects would eventually subside, and she was right. Slowly but surely, the side effects began to fade, and I started to feel better, not happy, not ecstatic, but better. The emptiness began to recede, replaced by a glimmer of hope, a flicker of interest in the world around me. The therapy was also helping. Dr. Sharma helped me to identify the negative thought patterns that were contributing to my depression, and she taught me techniques to challenge those thoughts and replace them with more positive and realistic ones. She encouraged me to engage in activities that I used to enjoy, even if I didn't feel like it. She stressed the importance of self-care, getting enough sleep, eating healthy, exercising regularly, and spending time with loved ones. Slowly but surely, I began to rebuild my life. I started hiking in the mountains again, finding solace in the beauty of nature. I started reading again, immersing myself in the worlds created by great writers. I started cooking again, experimenting with new flavors and textures. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, days when the emptiness returned with a vengeance, days when I felt like giving up, but I persevered, supported by Dr. Sharma, my friends, and my own growing sense of hope. One day, I woke up and realized that the emptiness was gone. It had vanished, like a fog lifting in the morning sun. I felt alive. I felt happy. I felt grateful. I still take medication, and I still see Dr. Sharma regularly. I know that depression is a chronic condition, and that it may return at some point in the future, but I'm not afraid. I know that I have the tools and the support I need to manage my symptoms and live a fulfilling life. My journey with depression has taught me many things. It has taught me the importance of self-care, the power of therapy, and the value of human connection. But most importantly, it has taught me that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to admit that you're struggling, because depression is not a weakness. It's an illness, and like any other illness, it can be treated. If you're feeling empty, if you're losing interest in things that you used to enjoy, if you're struggling to concentrate, please don't suffer in silence. Reach out to a friend, a family member, or a mental health professional. You're not alone. There is hope, and you deserve to feel better. You deserve to live a life filled with joy, purpose, and meaning. Now, several years later, I use my experience to advocate for mental health awareness. I volunteer at a local support group, sharing my story and offering encouragement to others who are struggling with depression. I also write articles and blog posts about mental health, hoping to reach people who might not otherwise seek help. I often think back to that time when I didn't know I was depressed, when I just felt empty. It seems like a lifetime ago. I'm grateful for the journey, even the difficult parts, because it has made me a stronger, more compassionate, and more resilient person. I've learned that true strength isn't about never feeling pain. It's about acknowledging it, facing it, and finding a way to move forward. And that, I believe, is something worth sharing. Thank you for listening to my story. If any part of it resonated with you, please know this: you're not alone. What you're feeling is real, and healing is possible. Depression doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it just feels like nothing. But even in the emptiness, there is still hope. If you're struggling, reach out. To a friend, a therapist, or someone you trust. You deserve support. You deserve to feel better. If this story touched you, please consider liking, sharing, or leaving a comment. It might help someone else who's silently going through the same thing. And if you're on your own healing journey, take it one breath, one step, one day at a time. You're not broken. You're human, and you're worthy of peace. Until next time, take care of yourself. Truly.